Grant Napear at 7:35, Sam Amick 8:05, Scott Moak 8:50. All coming to you via the Fire Wings hotline. 21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com. Just wing it. Want to get in baseball here in a second, but let me get this phone call first. Hello, you're on the drive.
Hey, it's Jerry calling. I want to preempt your thing on baseball. Well, what's next? There's not going to be any bunting because they want more home runs hit? I mean, that's crazy. You can't tell managers how to manage a game. Guys should run the league, help Oakland get a better stadium and things like that. That's crazy, Dave.
Hey, Jerry, I'm not going to argue your point.
Couldn't agree more, Jerry.
I'm not going to argue your point, but I'll say this. You can tell managers how to manage. It happens all the time. And I'll give you an example. I had an idea when I was a kid that a catcher could have a glove with little holes cut out in it for the pitcher and all the fielders, but the glove itself would take up the entire grassy area from home plate to the outfield walls, and he just sticks his hand in there, and then anything hit that wasn't a home run would be a catch. That's not allowed, Jerry. They've outlawed that. They have told managers and players how small their gloves have to be, so there is precedent.
Yeah, I understand that, but baseball's main problem is
Oh, you're breaking up, Jerry. Sorry. Jerry, your phone was breaking up. We love you, but Rob Manfred.
Jerry's the best.
Jerry's the best. Rob Manfred does not like defensive shifts. He didn't like it when he came into the league in 2015 as commissioner. Baseball's competition committee last month reportedly gave Manfred strong backing to try to put something in place to limit those shifts, and that's from The Athletic. We don't know what that is. We don't know how it will work. And union head Tony Clark, which is what's interesting, said, because any rule change has to be approved by the players' union, said, to this point, there hasn't been a definitive position taken on the shift, no shift. But according to some, and I can kind of see this too, that rule change, depending on what it is and how they did it, would actually be supported pretty easily by the players. It would fly through. I feel like there's a ban on shifts coming. I think it's going to happen because it doesn't appear that there's much opposition. But if Kyle Madson and his cronies had their way, they would oppose banning the shift for the following reason.
I would like to present some evidence to this argument because I think that you're trolling me.
What?
So I'm not going to.
Why?
Because
you
people.
What do you mean, you people?
In the NFL are so up in arms about the defensive changes in the NFL and the rules that handcuff defense, and now you're in favor of handcuffing defense in Major League Baseball.
Why can't I do my big field size glove then?
What?
I'm saying, the glove that's the size of a whole field. Why can't I do that?
Because that's totally ludicrous.
Oh, okay.
Like
well,
that's
you're lying.
If players if there's a way to beat shifts, you can do it.
Let me give you your argument against me. I cannot stand the idea of adjusting the hack-a-shack rules in basketball. I don't like that. When DeAndre Jordan, who we talked about last night, who's shooting near 80% from the free throw line.
Yeah, and you're against every change that hinders defense in the NFL.
Can't handle it. Don't like that. Yeah, I like the idea of defenders being able to, I am for rule changes that have a good marriage of protecting players without changing the game that much in football. I don't have a problem with that. I want it to be safe.
Sure,
but
understood.
I also don't want it to be flag football. If you play football, guess what? It's violent. But the basketball one is the one I'm bringing up because it directly contradicts what I would say. That's the direct contradiction. I say I don't care if a big man goes 0 of 90 in the fourth quarter from the free throw line. Learn to shoot free throws, idiot. And I truly feel that way. My stance, Kyle, isn't necessarily why I think it should happen. It's why it will happen. Because the older we get, and I'm going to try not to take this off the rails, but the older we get, as the new generation comes in, and this isn't a millennial crack, I'm being serious now. Twitter, social media, Instagram, videos on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. People have a shorter attention span. They just do. People have short attention spans. They need instant gratification. Nobody reads long-form journalism anymore. Nobody reads long-form magazine stuff. You need it short and sweet. That's what every study says. That's why you see, in my opinion, basketball rising so much. One of the big reasons is there is constant scoring in basketball. There is constant scoring in football. You now have people love these 48-44 games. The Chiefs-Rams game, I said, greatest game of the year.
Yep.
Gone are the days where the bulk of people are enjoying a 17-10 defense. Like the 13-10 Cowboys-Saints was about as enjoyable as defense can be.
Right.
Whatever. Well, baseball's having issues. Baseball's having attendance issues. Baseball's having competition issues, which are way blown out of proportion, by the way. Players Union, for example, filed a grievance last year that there were 4 teams they named that were not being competitive because they were tearing themselves down. One of those teams was the A's. One of those teams was the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
They weren't using their revenue share.
They weren't, exactly. And guess what? Both those teams were very, very, very competitive. And a third was competitive until I think they were saying March. The Pirates, thank you. The reason it's going to happen is because when you take away the shift, and the numbers sort of support this, when you take away the shift, you're going to get more people on base. There are hitters whose averages have gone way down because of that shift. You have launch angle now. The long ball is king. We have gotten to the point where you're not seeing a lot of bunting. Everyone's trying to fire one into the stands. And what happens, and this is basic baseball, I'm not getting too deep here, but anybody who's played Little League knows this. If you're swinging hard and swinging for the fences, you're more likely to pull a ball. And if you're swinging hard and you're trying to lift the ball, depending on where you make contact, that's going to be a line shot or a ground ball to the side you're pulling to.
And just in case, real quick, in case there's an A's fan or a baseball fan that's jumping on their phone right now and goes, oh, Chris Davis. Chris Davis is an extreme outlier.
Very much an exception.
His ability to hit third deck home runs.
You have players, and you can find the numbers. I was all up in stats last night that you can watch as ground ball base hits have gone down and down and down. Guys who are being shifted 90-95% of the time. What baseball wants to do is baseball wants to shorten the attention span. They have to catch up to basketball and football. They need more scoring, and they've tried to accomplish that with home runs. But at the same time, with all those home runs and the launch angle craze has come an increased amount of strikeouts. Strikeouts are at a record high. Pulling balls, that's at a record high. So what I think is going to happen, and they don't know what they're going to do yet, but what I think Rob Manfred and the competition committee is going to do is they're going to say you have to have 2 infielders on either side of the second base back. You cannot have the shortstop cross. You cannot have the second baseman cross.
You're going to be able to move around a little bit.
And they're going to need to also put a line of demarcation as to what qualifies as an infielder to avoid, for example, right-handed hitters up. Second baseman's not allowed to cross to the left of second base. So can you bring in the right fielder to play along with the shortstop and third baseman? See, they're going to have to come up with a way to get rid of the loopholes.
Yeah, and it's going to be gross.
That's what I think is going to happen. I'm not necessarily a fan of that, but it's going to happen, and that's why.
I think that it's fascinating because MLB had this time of game issue, but then it wasn't time of game, it was efficiency of game. Which is why they implemented the intentional walk rule.
Sure.
Where you just walk a guy, you don't have to throw the 4 pitches. But now they're trying to increase offense, which will – we saw it in college. I used to broadcast games at Sac State, and when I first got to Sac State, there were no bat regulations.
Sure.
And these games would go 4 hours because everything was – to or over the fence because the bats were just insanely hot.
Yep.
Around 2011, I think, they switched to this BB core regulation that made the aluminum bats more like wood bats.
Sure.
And it dramatically reduced offense.
And quicken the games.
And we saw, it was a long game if we went 3 hours.
Sure.
And 3 hours prior to that used to be like, wow, quick game.
Yep.
And MLB, by eliminating shifts, and yes, they're going to increase hits. Yes, they're going to increase base runners. Yes, they're going to increase runs. They're also going to have issues. Like, you think pitchers take a long time now?
Yeah.
You think there are pitching changes now?
Well, they're also looking at that. They're also looking at a lot of limitations there, too.
Right, which I think is going to be the next step. Mm-hmm. The whole point here is, because we got to go in a minute, is we're going to reach a point with baseball where they have to adjust the game so much. We're going to be looking at like no shifts. You're allowed 3 pitchers per game, and games are 7 innings long.
The 3 pitchers per game, I don't think will happen because the players' union will never approve that. But I understand. I understand your point.
Number of pitching changes per game.
We have to break, and it's a great conversation to have. I want to clear up one thing on the text line, and I think this is from John, who's a snarky guy anyways. It's funny that Dave talks about there isn't enough scoring in baseball, but he likes watching a pitcher struggle to lay down a sac bunt. Bring in the DH to the NL. Let me be clear.
That's on the way, too.
Let me be clear. I hope not. Let me be clear. I do enjoy low-scoring games. I'm the guy. I love a pitcher's duel. I love 2-1 games. I love small ball. I love the strategy. I like sacrifice bunts. I like stolen bases. I like manufacturing runs based on a ground ball infield base hit and then bringing the guy from first to home. I enjoy that style of baseball, and that's what I grew up on. But to be clear, baseball's not after me. Baseball's after you. Right. Baseball's after those younger than you, Kyle. That's the difference.
Real quick, I just want to address something somebody said on Twitter. Cody on Twitter says, here's how to beat the shift. Don't hit into it or bunt down the line until they play straight up. I vehemently dislike this proposed idea. Don't do it. I'm going to be this idea is ridiculous. We had Matt Olson on. His first baseman, Matt Olson. Gold Glove first baseman, Matt Olson. And he gets shifted heavily. And we asked him about hitting into the shift or trying to hit away from it. And he said, I get asked this all the time. It's not that easy because they pitch you to hit into the shift.
Sure.
When you have that many guys on the right side, they want him to pull it. So they are throwing balls in on his hands.
Yep.
That is very tough to get inside that baseball to drive it.
Try bunting a ball the opposite way when they're try bunting a ball the opposite way when they're pitching you inside with a tailing fastball. It's not easy. We'll take a break. When we come back, 4 down territory, and then we get into guest-heavy second half of the show. Grant Napear at 7:35, followed by Sam Amick at 8:05. It's The Drive. We'll pause for a word from NorCal Liposculpture right here on Sports 1140 KHTK. Four down territory brought to you by Fire Wings this Saturday. Go to the Howe Avenue location. Show them that you follow Fire Wings on Instagram at FireWingsCA, and you'll be one of the first 500 to try their new Nashville Fire Chicken Sammy.
I'm in the process of moving right now out to Natomas.
Yeah.
And my wonderful girlfriend came up to help me unpack some stuff last night. And she goes, on her way up, she goes, I want Fire Wings tonight. And I didn't realize the Fire Wings Natomas location is very close to my place.
Oh, is it now?
I am, like, when I found that out, when I realized that, I was, like, take how excited you are to have the Antelope location open.
Yeah.
I was as excited as that.
You're going into Natomas?
Yeah.
Is there a Fingermas? Don't take off your headphones because you're going to want to hear this part. You know how we were trolling Kobe fans earlier with the Twitter? We got ourselves a big fish. Somebody quote tweeted my tweet and said, there's absolutely no question. I said, it has finally become apparent to anyone that actually watches basketball that Steph Curry has eclipsed Kobe Bryant on any legitimate greatest of all time list. That tweet was quote tweeted with this. There's absolutely no question he's been better at their respective peaks. That's from Chris Towers, senior editor, CBS Sports.
Love Chris.
Love Chris.
Do you want me to try and get him on?
Not today, but yes.
Dang.
Yeah, we're a little packed today. And we're also going to be out of time on 4 down territory. First down.
Ezekiel Elliott was fined for dropping $21 into a Salvation Army kettle after scoring a touchdown on Thanksgiving. Is this the height of stupidity?
Yeah, here's the thing. I didn't know Boomer Esiason was going to be dropping a hot take on the CBS Sports Minute on this very thing during our previous break, so it kind of destroyed. You got Boomer's take. Yes, it's stupid.
Really dumb.
He dropped money into the Salvation Army kettle, and then I believe he and Dak Prescott are making a $21,000 donation to match the $21 he dropped in. People, as Boomer said, damn it, Boomer, you took half my takes. People are celebrating, like doing Rockettes-style choreographed celebrations for defensive touchdowns. You can't drop money into the Salvation Army kettle on Thanksgiving. The NFL is just so tone deaf about everything. It's frustrating.
Their inability to go outside the letter of the law and go, okay, you're not allowed to use props in your touchdown celebrations.
Sure.
But this was Thanksgiving. He donated it to Salvation Army. Dude, hey, throw a charity bucket in every end zone and say, hey, if your touchdown celebration is going to use a prop that involves donating to this charity,
stupid.
Great. It's the NFL's the worst.
Second down.
Second down.
Oakland Athletics legend Kyler Murray told Tim Tebow he's going to, quote, weigh his options between football and baseball. Should A's fans be worried? I did not know the direction that question was going to go.
I'll leave that answer to you, Kyle, because he did say that to Tim Tebow. He and his family are going to have to weigh the options, which means they're going to look at where he would be drafted,
right,
and make a decision.
And that's what I've been saying. I think the A's probably did a little research into this as well, and said, hey, he's going to be like a day 3 pick, and he probably won't even get to play quarterback in the NFL. He's not a. People said Lamar Jackson wasn't a big dude. Lamar Jackson's like 6'3".
People are comparing Kyler Murray to Russell Wilson.
He's not as sturdy as Russell Wilson, for sure.
Are you worried about this?
No.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
If it starts coming out that he's going to be a first-round pick, then I will be. Because in football, you get that 4-year contract.
Right.
It's a fully guaranteed contract.
Right.
And he's going to make some good money, more money than he would make with his contract with the A's.
Yep.
And with the A's, he's got to go through the minors and all that first.
Third down.
Third down.
Chris Carter said Jim Harbaugh could be going to the Browns or Packers. You buying it?
Jim Harbaugh spends 4 years at every coaching stop he's at, pretty much, and he's just finished his 4th year at Michigan. Cleveland and Jimmy Haslam tried to court Jim Harbaugh a few years ago when he went to Michigan. I understand that. I completely understand it. But here's the little secret. Chris Carter went to Ohio State. Chris Carter still, once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye. And if you wanted to disrupt the recruiting of your arch rival, one really good way to do it is to start putting out rumors about how the head coach is going to perhaps leave for the NFL. I think, I'm not saying Harbaugh won't leave, but I also am not going to accept any logic from Chris Carter when it comes to Michigan and Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh is A, not leaving after they got this close this year. B, he's not leaving the same year Urban Meyer leaves.
Right.
And C, who is Chris Carter talking to that he knows this?
Nobody.
Chris Carter's making stuff up.
We need to get Eddie George on. We still haven't had Eddie George on.
Let's get Eddie George on the horn.
4th down.
That's on you.
That is on me.
One Dave.
4th down.
Best friends.
I know. Best friends.
Tennessee Titans legend. Jags Titans Thursday Night Football. You got?
Probably some Netflix show.
Nice, dude.
Jags Titans. I don't know. Part of me wants to take the Jags in an upset because of their. What if they turned it around during the Colts game? They beat the Colts 6-0 and shut down Andrew Luck. I don't buy it. Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans are 6-6. They're favored by 5 in this one. I think the Titans win this one. And when I say handily, probably by 10 points. And the over-under on this is 37.5. That might be high. Who knows? I'm not looking forward to this game. I'll watch it, and I'll take the Titans.
I have the Titans because the Titans own the Jaguars.
No.
They do.
I can look it up right now.
They do.
No,
look
they
it up
don't.
on Wikipedia.
I forget what the guy's name is, but it's
Shad Khan.
It's not. Thank you, Shad Khan. It's not Tennessee Titan. Grant Napear is going to join us.
Here we
next.
go now.
Grant Napear is going to join us next. They said that.
Hey, he's going to join us because it's time to call Sierra Pacific to get $1,600 off a new Lennox furnace, and he needs to know that.
He does.
Keep your home cozy and warm this winter. 800-551-3040 or SierraPacificHome.com.
When Grant Napear joins us next, will he follow through on his promise if the Kings make the playoffs to do a game with his hair in the style of Frank Mason? We'll answer that question right there from the horse's mouth with Granty Napes next on The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK.
This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. Week 14 of the NFL season kicks off tonight. It's the Titans and Jaguars in Nashville, Tennessee, looking to keep pace in the AFC playoff picture, while the Jags look to play spoiler against their division rival. We have all the action for you right here on Sports 1140, beginning at 5 o'clock. There was a blockbuster trade in Major League Baseball yesterday with Arizona Diamondbacks all-star first baseman Paul Goldschmidt going to the Cardinals in exchange for a trio of prospects. It's pitcher Luke Weaver, catcher Carson Kelly, and infielder Andy Young. Goldschmidt has 1 year left on his contract. He'll be a free agent after next season. And Russell Westbrook notched his 108th career triple-double last night in Oklahoma City's 114-112 win over the Nets, breaking a tie with Jason Kidd for the third most all-time. It's 7:33. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories. Now it's back to the drive with Grant Napear. He's joining us next.
Yeah.
Right here on Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Grant will join us in just a couple minutes from Cleveland. Let's clean up some of the texts on the Jiffy Lube text line. Sam Amick at 805. This one's, I don't know who this is from the 916. Hey, Tile, T-I-L-E.
That's me.
You little worried about Leo, the number 4, net, N-E-T, just going crazy after that suspension in that build-up anger?
I'm terrified of that.
Me too. Is he trying to say
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Is he trying to say Leonard Fournette?
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's a voice text. I'm not worried about that because here's my hot take. Leonard Fournette stinks.
Wow.
I don't think Leonard Fournette's that good.
You've been close enough to him to sniff him.
Yes. Multiple times. And maybe it's because it's always been after practice or a game, but
You think Leonard Fournette stinks?
yeah, I don't think he's that good at football.
I hadn't heard that one before from you. Leonard,
I'm not certain. Like, I'm not ready to write him off, but I'm not sure that he's that good.
I mean, he had 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns in 13 games last year. Another 302, in receiving yards.
Uh-huh.
I know those, by the way, top of my head. I got to check and see if those are right. Why does Leonard Fournette stink?
I just don't think he's just not that good. He's not that effective.
That's not what, but he's not effective. What do you mean? Like Jacksonville won a lot of games last year. He was their running back. He gained over 1,000 yards as a rookie and had 9 touchdowns and 300 yards.
Because their offense doesn't change when he's not in.
Oh.
Like, you can just kind of plug anybody in there and he's...
Does Alvin Kamara stink?
No.
But if Alvin Kamara was out and you had what's his face? What's his guy? What's the guy? I always get it wrong. It's not Michael Thomas. That's the receiver. It's
Mark Ingram.
Thank you. Well, do you think Mark Ingram stinks? Because their offense was fine when he was out.
I don't think Mark Ingram stinks, but he's. I think you could plug somebody different into.
So you think Fournette is like going back to Shanahan's Broncos when they went Olandis Gary, Mike Anderson, and a whole bevy of running backs that you could just plug and play and they'd gain 1,000 yards? You think is that a TJ Yeldon take as much as it is a Leonard Fournette take?
I guess. I mean, I don't think Leonard Fournette was the number 4 pick.
I think you're right. He was a high pick. Yeah, 4th.
That's outrageous to me.
That he was picked that high?
I would take Matt Breida over Leonard Fournette.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say that, are you saying that because you're factoring in where Breida was picked, the size of his contract, and all that? Or if they both made $1 million a year, would you take Breida over Fournette?
I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
I've never been enamored with Leonard Fournette. Check that. I was enamored with Leonard Fournette watching him at LSU because he was a tank.
Rich agrees with you.
As long as Rich has good opinions.
He says Alvin Kamara can catch passes out of the backfield, and that Leonard Fournette makes his team predictable and is not explosive. Well, he had a 90-yard touchdown last year in 13 games, and he caught 48 passes in 13.
I forget the exact number, but something like 33% of his yards came on like 4 carries last year. Leonard Fournette.
Okay. I'm not necessarily disagreeing. Listen, I'm very, very into that take. It's kind of, we got to get Grant on. That just kind of surprised me.
Murph on Twitter says it's real Murph Dog 916.
Yeah, old Murph.
He's trying. I get what he's saying, but the way it's phrased on the internet looks really funny. He goes, Leonard Fournette is too injury prone. Was in college, now the pros. But there's no comma, so It looks like he's just saying he was in college, now he's in the pros.
Well, Murph, first off, I know Murph a little bit. I've had a drink with him before. I think he tweets with his face because he has a lot of issues with that. Secondly, I also think, and if Murph's being honest, I think he'll agree. I think what's happened here is Murph has lost a little bit of money on Leonard Fournette in daily fantasy. That's just gonna be my guess.
I like Murph. I rock with Murph.
He's all right. He's up and down with us. Sometimes he completely hates me. Other times he's okay.
Hey, it's time to call Sierra Pacific to get up to $1,600 off a new Lennox furnace. Keep your home cozy and warm this winter. 800-551-3040 or SierraPacificHome.com.
Grant Napear yesterday was on the tarmac with the rest of the team, and we'll talk to him about that in a second because the team didn't get out of Phoenix to go to Cleveland for quite a while, and he did a Twitter question and answer session. One of the questions that was asked of Grant, which really caught my eye. Somebody asked him, and I want to get the name right here, at John O22. Old John O said, if the Kings, well, he technically said if the Kings make the playoffs, but let's just go ahead and call that a typo. If the Kings make the playoffs and make it to the second round, would you do a game call with your hair braided like Harry Giles? I think I said Frank Mason earlier. I apologize. To which Grant simply responded, yes. I need to find out about this. Because there is no specification as to what year they had to make the playoffs. Is this permanently? Joining us right now on the Fire Wings hotline from beautiful, tropical, dare I say, Cleveland, Ohio. The one, the only Grant Napear. Grant, you did make it to Cleveland, right?
I did, and I just received a call from a gentleman named Kyle Madson who said, hi, Grant, this is Kyle Madson from Sports 1140 KHDK in Sacramento. And I'm like, oh, wow, Sacramento. Yeah, sure, I'll go on with you guys. No problem. Thanks for the call.
I'm glad to see that he's being professional with our guests, Grant.
Oh, it was just great. I answered the phone. Hi, this is Kyle Madson from Sports 1140 KHDK in Sacramento. How you doing today, Grant? Like, wow, okay, yeah, Sacramento. Yeah, I would love to go on there. No problem.
That's how we just dry book shows. We just randomly call people. Say, hey, you want to come on the air?
Oh, my God.
You know,
that's classic.
I've got great news for you, Grant. Starting at noon today your time, so that's going to be in about an hour plus. It says that it's going to start snowing, and it's currently 33 in Cleveland, and I know that's your type of weather.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's okay. We're connected to the hotel we stay at here to a mall that has restaurants, a casino, movie theaters, and so I will not be leaving until I absolutely have to, which means right before 6 o'clock local time here to go do my radio show. So I'll be inside all day. It's okay. No problem.
I know you don't like the weather, but you kind of grew up with this weather, didn't you?
I did grow up with this weather. And I think most people listening that grow up in cold weather environments like I did in New York, or if you're in the Midwest, or you grow up and you don't really know what it's like not to live in the cold. I mean, you don't know any different. You don't know what you don't know, right? And I remember as a kid watching the Rose Bowl every year on New Year's Day or the Orange Bowl and seeing how warm it was via the TV pictures, but it didn't really – it was kind of like, wow, man, look at that. But it wasn't like – it wasn't realistic. You know, it was kind of like, okay, well, that's where they live. That's where I live. And until you experience a non-winter, in other words, I did not experience that until I moved to California. It doesn't really hit you like, wow, why did it take me so long to get out of the cold? And that's why I always make fun of people that are my age. And I'm going out with all my college buddies for lunch on Friday here in Cleveland. And that's the first thing I say to them. I go, why do you guys live here for? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why on earth would you live here if you don't have to live here? And that will be literally 50% of the conversation that we have at lunch on Friday. And I do it every year, and they don't have any answers for me. And then I show them pictures of where I live, and I'm like, hey, this is a picture my wife just sent me today. Yeah, she's hanging outside, and, like, I like to rub it in. But no, honestly, I really do not understand why you would live in this part of the country if you didn't have to. And by have to, I mean if you're, I think we know what that means. Sure. It doesn't make sense to me. So, did I answer your question well enough?
No, I think you did, and I want to expand on that, and we'll get to the Kings here in a second. But when you're talking to your and because Grant went to Bowling Green, which is about 2 hours from Cleveland. Yep. Don't you sometimes though get those same? Now, I'm saying this as a Sacramento native, and you might as well be. You've adopted this place and could have left many, many times. But don't you get that question sometimes from people around the league or friends? They say, why are you still living in Sacramento? There's so many other places. Why would you live in that cow town? Do you think it's the same type of thing for them where there's just something about it that people don't understand, or a completely different story?
It's funny. I've never, ever had anybody ask me, why do I live in Sacramento? Why do I live there?
Wow. Okay.
I've never had that happen. I've never, ever. I think that the majority of people, not all, that, come to Northern California would never ask that question. If you've been to Northern California, I don't think you would ever ask somebody, why do you live there? I mean, that would just be, the first time I came to San Francisco, I'll never forget, was only because it was the first time I was ever on TV. It was the California Bowl. I think it was either 82 or 83. I can't remember. I think it was 82 in Fresno. And the flight was supposed to go from Fresno to San Francisco, and then San Francisco through back to Detroit, and then back to beautiful Bowling Green, Ohio. And the flight from Fresno to San Francisco was canceled because it was – I'll never forget this, and I never experienced this before. I woke up from the hotel in Fresno on a Sunday morning, and I looked out the window, and I couldn't see the parking lot. Like, I couldn't see any cars in the parking lot. That's how foggy it was. Jeez. And so I rented a car, and I drove to San Francisco. And when I got out of the valley and went through San Jose, there was not a cloud on the sky, and it was like one of those, December mornings where it was in the low 60s. And I went over the Bay Bridge. I had never been to San Francisco before. Drove around, went over the Golden Gate Bridge, then went up above that, that road that goes up above the Golden Gate Bridge. Mm-hmm. And honestly, at that point in time, I was like, this is like the most beautiful, greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then the 49ers were playing the Atlanta Falcons that night, and I had my flight. They had rebooked me on a red eye, and I went to the parking lot of this Candlestick Park, and this guy comes up to me and goes, hey, do you need a ticket for the game? And I said, yeah, how much is it? He goes, you know what, you can have it. And I sat next to him, and I explained my story, and it was just phenomenal. Wilbert Montgomery and Steve Bartkowski for the Falcons, and, of course, the 49ers still, they're great players, and that was my first experience of San Francisco. I'll never forget it.
Well, I've said this before, and I'm obviously a Sacramento honk, and I go over the top about it, but I said, you could make an argument that there's no better place in California to live, and people go, you're crazy. I say, well, hold on a second. You got to take everything into account. You are an hour and a half from Tahoe. You're an hour and a half from San Francisco. You're 2.5 hours from Monterey. You're 3 hours from Yosemite, and you're an hour plane flight to L.A. or San Diego. But not only are you the best jump-off spot in the entire state, and that's not even me talking about the city itself.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because you know how it was explained to me when I first moved here?
Sure.
All right, and this is before Sacramento became Sacramento. Somebody explained Sacramento to me as something in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
And, all right, so think about that. Sacramento as a base, right? Let's just call it that, would have been maybe the greatest location of anywhere in the entire state of California for what you just mentioned.
Well, and then when you factor in that fact, and we're not even talking about the city itself and all it has to offer, but you put that fact in there. Now somebody might say, well, San Diego or Monterey. Okay, but factor in cost of living, real estate prices, and how obviously they've gotten a lot higher recently. But I think when you factor all of that in, schools, crime, diversity, real estate prices, blah, 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 I really do think you can make an argument that it is the best place in California to live.
I agree. So, and again, I think anybody that – I've never had that. I've lived in Sacramento now for 32, 33 years, so well more than half my life. And I've never had anybody ask me, why do I live there for? I've had people ask me, why would you not go work somewhere else? I mean, I've had that, or why don't you do this? Why? And my answer is always the same, because I love Sacramento. Jerry Reynolds and I have talked about this a lot, because of course he's from French Lick, which, listen, if you're from French Lick, Indiana, you could go live anywhere and that would be great. But he just happened to end up in Sacramento, and he says the same thing that I say. Like, why would we ever want to leave Sacramento? Like, it's a phenomenal, phenomenal place to live. I mean, I've lived in a lot of different areas of the country, and Sacramento is by far the best area. I mean, it's phenomenal. I don't know why you would come here and then say, gee, this sucks, I want to get out of here. I don't really that's why so many former players that have come from different parts of the country make this their home and love it here, or still talk about it in like, wow, Sacramento was great. You don't hear players come here and leave and go, boy, Sacramento, what a horrible place to live. You might hear, well, the team wasn't good, but they don't say it was a bad place to live. You never hear that from former players.
Grant Napear with us. What you also were asked yesterday during a Q&A on Twitter, you were asked if the Sacramento Kings make the second round of the playoffs, would you do a game with your hair in the styles of Harry Giles? And
I would. And
it caught my eye when you said you would. First off, I had to pause and just visualize it, and it gave me a lot of joy. But then I started thinking, Grant, and you and I, it's no secret, you and I are fairly close off the air. We talk often. I got into a protective mode because you didn't specify when the King, like, does that mean?
Let me break a secret. Can I break a little secret to you?
Please.
Okay. You could either choose Harry Giles or Frank Mason. Did you see Frank's do the other night?
I loved it. My daughter is a huge fan.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm. And so are you aware that the way the NBA is set up right now, that there is no local TV after the first round of the playoffs?
I just remembered that when you told me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now.
Okay, so you understand, right?
You're an icon, Grant. Grant, you are an icon.
So you do. Okay, I just want to make sure that, that's the hardest I've ever heard you laugh.
Because it all made sense. So for this to happen, not only would the Kings have to make the second round of the playoffs, but we would have to petition Adam Silver to allow a local broadcast of the game.
And he might, just for that, he might make a special exception. That's correct.
So you saying yes to that question, just so everybody understands, is the equivalent of if somebody said, hey, listen, if the Kings make the second round of the playoffs, will you roll over in the morning and say hello to Kate Upton while singing the theme from Disney's Frozen? If I said yes, the thing is that I would also, what people are missing is I would, in fact, have to be waking up with Mrs. Kate Verlander in order to pull that bet off, which is, by the way, less likely than your scenario.
Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one.
You were on the tarmac, by the way. I know you love planes, so yes. you were probably the only guy on that plane that wasn't pissed off yesterday. But can you give us a little rundown what you and the boys and girls were doing on that tarmac for so long in Phoenix?
Honestly, that's when I started doing my Q&A on Twitter, because I was bored and I was just sitting there. And we're in a very comfortable airplane, so it's not like sitting on a conventional aircraft where you're packed in like sardines. So you can get up, walk around. There's food. There's it's not like the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's not like, I was in Phoenix and I was looking out the window And, I'm looking at the people working at the airport in short sleeve shirts and everything. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to Cleveland. Like, this plane can break down and we can stay here on the tarmac for the next 24 hours. If it means that I don't have to get to Cleveland, then I'm all for it. So like, I was the only guy. I was happy. I was like, hey, I'll take a mechanical any day of the week if it means that even though I'm inside an aircraft, I can look out at beautiful, Phoenix and not have to go to Cleveland. So I was actually fine with it. I was actually disappointed when we took off, to be honest with you. So.
And did you end up having a different plane, or did they fix that one?
Nope. We had it. They flew in another plane for us, the exact same plane that we fly on. There's like I want to say there's 10 or 12 757s that are used by Delta, and so they flew one in. So I don't know where the plane came from. I forgot to ask, but it obviously could not have been too far away. But they flew that in, and then we literally walked off the plane. The plane that came in ended up parking right next to us, and we walked onto that plane. They refueled it. They put the bags on, and off we went.
Now, the last time I was in Phoenix, funny enough, we were on the tarmac for about 40 minutes, and part of the problem was the air conditioner was out, and I was not on it.
Oh, my God. I remember that, and you said it was in the middle of summer, right?
Yeah, I was. Oh, that's right.
Yep.
I was texting you and saying, we're about to have a real problem. People were starting to yell. There were babies on the plane. It was a deal.
That's not fun.
And this was not an NBA-sanctioned plane. I won't say the carrier, but people can probably guess. I was in Phoenix.
Yeah, it was Southwest. Yeah, you just said that, right.
Did I say that?
Yes.
So I was on a plane, and as upset as upset as I get whenever there's a delay, I always that anger or frustration is always quelled by the fact that I'd really rather have the inconvenience of being delayed than have there be some sort of issue when I'm 35,000 feet in the sky.
Yeah, you'd rather be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you were on the ground. So,
right.
Well said. And nothing against Southwest for anybody that works for Southwest. I fly it all the time. It's a great airline, and I really mean that. I think it's the best airline in the United States. That and Alaska, I think, are the two best airlines in the country. But with JetBlue, we'll just stop right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, people always you do not want to go on an aircraft that has a mechanical issue, and they don't know that you have a mechanical issue. So it's not like being in the car and a check engine light comes on. It's a little different. So you absolutely, a lot of people get upset at mechanicals, and I get it because it is an inconvenience, but, the real inconvenience is being in the air and having a mechanical. Now, that's a real inconvenience. So I don't make fun of that stuff. I really don't. I have a lot of friends that are pilots, and I hear stories that, are scary. So you always want to make sure that they know about that before you have wheels up. Absolutely, 100%.
No, we just have a minute left, Grant, but let me ask you as we finish up,
yes.
And this has been an enthralling conversation you and I have had about the Kings so far. If I was to take a flight from LaGuardia Airport in New York, I don't know if you've been there.
Oh, my God. Here we go again.
If I was to take a flight from LaGuardia and I was to land in Houston, what would those airport codes be?
Well, it depends whether you're going in the hobby or intercontinental. If you're going in the hobby, it's HOU, which does make sense, right?
It does.
And if you were going to go to Houston and you were going to go to a Kings game, you would want to fly in a hobby because it's a lot closer.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. What about LaGuardia?
Well, that's LGA, Dave. I know that's difficult for you to figure out,
Okay, here's one. What about Newark Liberty Airport?
That is not an NEW, all right?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the weirdest 3-code in the world, all right?
Mm-hmm.
It has a K in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has an E in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has an R in it. Or it has a W in it, correct?
Yes.
Right.
How do you know?
So figure it out.
You know these things.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The Kings are 12-11, right?
Yep.
And these are the conversations we used to have when the Kings sucked, because you would have me on and we wouldn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Kings are a game over 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just went, how many minutes did we just talk?
17 minutes, 24 seconds.
And we didn't even talk about the 12-11 Sacramento Kings.
We talked about them being.
And I wasted, in all fairness,
yeah.
I wasted a minute talking about Kyle's great greeting.
Welcome
to Sports 1140, KHTK in Sacramento. We spent a minute on that.
Mm-hmm.
I did waste some time on my long story about being in San Francisco for the first time, so I apologize.
Really long, too.
So maybe you can have me on at another day. How's that sound?
You want to do part 2 of this on-air podcast, and we'll get you before the last game of the road trip.
You're a beauty.
You're something I'm not going to say on the air, but I'll text it to you in a few minutes.
All right.
Hey, buddy, listen. Have a great call tomorrow. I'm just happy that you are going to have another 24 hours to enjoy the wonderful city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you very much. And if you do go into George Bush Airport, which today I'm going to be watching number 41.
Yep.
And the ceremony coming up here momentarily in Houston, that would be IAH for you if you go into the other airport. All right?
It is just someday you're going to win a lot of money with that knowledge. I don't know when, but it is a weird factoid thing that you know. And that's why he's the best in the business. You can hear him usually, barring travel or Kings games, 3 to 7, along with Doug Christie each and every afternoon on the Grant Napear Show with Doug Christie. And you will watch him also with Doug tomorrow evening as the Sacramento Kings look for win number 2 on this 4-game road trip. We'll have that coverage right here on Sports 1140 KHTK. Thanks, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I'll send you a picture of the snow through my window. How's that sound?
I appreciate that. I was, you know what? I was going to go with one of the I was going to harken back to your comment about your wife in the pictures, but I'm just going to stick with that.
No, you could.
I'll save that for the Jim Rome show.
Fine. She's fine with that. No problem.
I'll leave that for your guest hosting on Jim Rome. I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because we're on TV and I can actually put a picture up behind me on the screen. So, yeah, that would work better. Thank you.
I'll see you. Have a great week.
Always looking out for me. You're such a nice guy.
I am a nice guy. You take care, buddy.
See you, man.
See you. It's Grant Napear. We'll take a break. Sam Amick's going to join us next, and we will probably talk more basketball. And forgive me if I don't occasionally have it. When I have Grant on, it will go places right now, and that's fine. I enjoy the conversation. Really, that's all that matters. Hopefully you did too. Sam Amick of The Athletic next. Sports 1140 KHTK.